This is episode number 117. Can you start a business with just $100? We think you can, and that's coming up on this episode.
This is the Red Podcast. Real entrepreneur development. Make more money, work less, and live a life of freedom. No BS advice that really works. Here's your hosts, David Hooper and Laurel Staples.
Back in the day when I was running my retail store, I was invited to go on morning television to show some of my products from my store because I had these really cool bags made out of recycled sailboat sails, and I had eco-friendly clothing like hemp and bamboo and organic cotton. So I brought some of these items on the show, and the woman was going through them with me and presenting them and asking me about them, and I was so nervous at the time, and I had no Toastmasters skills like I do today. I have no idea what happened because I didn't watch the video, but I apparently went through every single item and called everything cute. I don't know why that was my word of the day, but I called all these items that were pretty fashion-forward items. I called them all cute.
How many items?
There were maybe 5. But I'm like, this is really cute, and this would be cute if you wore it with something else that was cute. I use the word cute a lot. And I didn't realize that I had done that because I was so nervous until I get back to my retail store, and I'm open for business, and I'm managing my employees that day and getting things done. And this woman calls me up, and she had seen me on the morning news. She basically chews me out, saying I had the worst performance on this show and that she should be the one to decide whether any of my items are cute, and I should not be the person that tells people that they are cute. So I really got my butt handed to me.
No editorializing on cuteness.
No, cute, it's just not the right word. It was funny. And then I actually had another woman call me up in that same day, and she spent about 20 minutes gushing about how amazing I was. So you just never know how you're doing when you put yourself out there and how people are going to react to it. But that woman, she went out of her way to make sure that I took the word cute out of my vocabulary.
The phones were lighting up.
I'm telling
over that
you.
Appearance. The reason this came up is because Laurel is sitting here with a whip, and you don't hear this in the edited podcast, which is what gets out to the public. We've got some outtakes, and apparently I say really, really a lot.
And very, very.
And very, I double them up.
You're an adverb junkie.
Well, I'm very, very excited to be here. This is the Red Podcast. Red stands for Real Entrepreneur Development. We help you build an audience, sell more product, and make more money. We're business optimizers. We're going to show you how to be more efficient in your marketing and find the hidden money sitting right in front of you. It could be very, very close, right in front of you.
The problem is we're in this little studio together, and we got to keep each other on track. So we point out what's going on with the other person. And so if I say the word cute too many times, David's going to get on me. And if you use your adverbs too much, I'm going to get on you. We're very close together in this space.
We've had a lot of feedback, people asking, what would you do on a budget? What would you do if you had to start all over again? And I thought it'd be fun, Laurel, to talk about what is possible with just $100. $100 will get you started, but I think that's a fun limitation. You get really creative when, can I say really on the?
You can say really, yeah.
You have to be really creative when you have limitations like that. $100, completely different than $1,000 in what you can do. But you can do a lot, surprisingly, and we're going to talk about that on this episode.
Also, I've seen a lot of people over the years say, I don't have enough money to start a business. I don't have enough money to do what I want to do. And a lot of my businesses, except for my retail store, that costs some money, but all my other businesses haven't cost a lot of money to start. So that's really no excuse. So we're going to help you today see how you can start a business under $100. So if you're looking to start something or looking to start something new, you can see how you can do it on the cheap.
If you just got a $100 bill in your pocket, in my opinion, you've got 3 great options for starting a business. They're all knowledge businesses. That's what I call them, because it's using the knowledge, the skills that you already have to make money. First one being a service business based on knowledge, and that's coaching, consulting, writing, editing, graphic design, maybe web help, anything using your brain.
Are you saying other businesses don't use your brain?
Some of them don't. Some of them are like an assembly line. You don't have to think that much. You just keep churning out those widgets. Those jobs these days, a lot of them are being shipped overseas, shipped to lower skilled workers. You don't really see the skilled widget type jobs anymore. Welders, whatever. That stuff is done by robots now.
Well, if you watch Shark Tank like we do, you're not going to see a lot of these knowledge-based service businesses on Shark Tank. You're going to see more of the product businesses, or mostly product businesses. Those are hard to start under $100. Those are hard to get off the ground. Obviously, a lot of those businesses, they're on Shark Tank because they need money or they need money to grow. So those require a lot of influx of money in the beginning and throughout the whole process. The knowledge-based businesses, the services that you just listed, David, those can be started on the cheap. And I don't want to say on the cheap, but they can be started for not a lot of money to get going and test and see if it's a viable product or service that you're offering and go from there.
And they could be very viable. They could make a lot of money. The reason you don't see them on something like Shark Tank is because they're difficult to scale. They're difficult for investors to pull their money out of, and you simply don't need that much money. It's not a Shark Tank match.
Yeah, you don't need the capital to do these things. You don't need the capital to be a coach or a consultant. You don't need the sharks to invest in you to do that. It's easy to get started, and it's easy to scale if you want to do that.
You could, however, combine what we're talking about to come up with, I'm going to call this number 2 in the knowledge businesses. Product businesses, that's where you use your knowledge to come up with a product. It could be a book, a paid newsletter, something like this, a podcast, maybe a software product. Now that you can scale.
Or informational products or training, courses, something like that.
Basically anything that you're putting on tape that can be digitally replicated and sold as a product, something where you don't have to be there, but your information would get to that person who's buying it. And
it's something that you can sell, maybe not an unlimited quantity, but you can sell more than just one-on-one services.
Well, that's the great thing about the digital products. If you were to go to Kindle, for example, these digital books, you don't have to print anything. You don't have to ship it. You don't have to warehouse it. It's wonderful. It's almost completely automatic. And the replication, just by the nature of the product, happens for not a lot of money.
David, you got into the book business before you could get into the book business cheaply. So what did that look like?
I got into the book business aside from my stint with a major publisher, which was short-lived. The book didn't even come out. I started in kind of the middle of the modern book business, what we call a short run. I could do, let's say, 100, 200 copies of a book at a time, and I could sell them. But the issue that we had, hey, we got all these orders. I need you to get these things printed up, get them bound, get them to me. There were always clogs, man. I remember going to an event up in Boston, and I had to literally FedEx a package full of books, and that's heavy, maybe 100, 200 books the next day, and it probably cost me more to ship the package than I made selling books, and then I had to mail them back if they didn't sell. So those are the kind of things that we ran into back then. Certainly delays, issues with binding. Maybe I would get them printed, but I couldn't get them bound. Maybe the covers weren't in. All sorts of little problems like that.
A lot of startup costs there.
A lot of startup costs. I mean, it was one of those things that was a constant issue as far as balancing the money. You have to have money for stock that you can sell. You can't sell if you don't have the stock. And it's kind of a chicken and egg kind of thing. I knew a lot of guys that there was demand for their books, but they didn't have the money to print the books. And it's the risk, like I mentioned in Boston, if you go up there and you're shipping all these books and you don't sell them, then it costs you even more money. So that takes some of your profit away. And all sorts of little problems like that. You don't have that with a digital product. And these days, a lot of stuff can be printed on demand. We're getting into 3D printers. You don't have to have a huge stockpile of products, do 1,000 at a time. Just print one at a time, yeah.
Also with newsletters, years ago, you had to invest in a magazine or start a newspaper or start something that there was a lot of cost associated with it. I had my own magazine that I ran in college, And there was a lot of cost to print that and distribute it and to keep that going. Now,
what about the deadlines?
Deadlines. Well, now you can have digital newsletters, you can have digital magazines, things that you can start instantly with little to no cost.
And if you needed to get it out tomorrow, you could do that. You don't have to wait.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have the advertising in 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time.
I was having to drive around the campus that I was on to distribute the magazines. You don't have to do that. You don't have to hire people to go out there and distribute for you. It's just automatic.
Software, same thing. All instant. You don't have to go to Best Buy, go to the software store, wherever you would buy software and find a big box, take it home with a disc on it, pop the disc in. Don't have to do that. It's all digital. And because of that, your costs are down, and that's why these businesses are so inexpensive to start. I'm blown away by these guys, these independent developers. One guy comes up with a cool iPhone app, like Flappy Bird, for example. This guy programmed this thing in like a day or two, put it on there. Next thing you know, he's making 30, 40 grand a day. It can happen. Not saying it happens to everybody, but it can happen, and it didn't cost him much. You know, we have the new Red Podcast app available at Google, available at the Amazon App Store, available on iTunes. Not costing us a thing. Not really. By the way, it's free to download, too.
There you go.
We're passing the savings on to you. But that's what we're talking about when we think about digital products. We don't have to put this thing on a CD anymore. Don't have to put it on a floppy, mail it to you. All those cost a lot of money, and they take a lot of time, too.
Mm-hmm. If you're trying to do something for $100 or less, it doesn't have to be online. Online is a cheap way to get started, an easy way to get started and distribute your product or your service. But you can do things offline as well and get started for $100 or less. A couple offline skill-based services that you could do are if you're an interior designer, if you're a personal trainer, a dog trainer, a personal chef, a yoga instructor, something like that. You can get started in the same way. You're just offline instead of online.
I see a lot of people who think they need money, investment. You really don't. And I would encourage you to take this exercise of, if I've only got $100, what would I spend it on? These are the three big ones that we're talking about: the service-based knowledge business, the product-based knowledge business, or as Laurel called this, the offline skill-based service business, which are the things not necessarily like books or info products, magazines, that kind of thing, but skills and certain talents that you have: personal chef, dog trainer, personal trainer.
Photography could be another one, something like that. Really easy to get started.
And it would cost you more, of course, to buy equipment for photography, but we're talking about things that you already have probably around the house, so it's not going to cost you any extra.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about what we'd spend $100 on. Where does the money go, Laurel?
Why don't we use one of our clients as an example? He is trying to start an online coaching business and create some digital products. So let's kind of walk through what he would need if he was going to start his business for $100 or less. So what would you say the first thing is that he needs?
The first thing I start out with personally, a name. Because a name to me gives everything the foundation.
And you're like a name wizard.
I'm a name guy. Yeah, we've got so many domain names, it's ridiculous, because sometimes I'll think of a great name and we don't have a product for it yet, but it happens. And we did that with your blog, Go Fire Yourself. Had that name for years before you finally started using that. I didn't even know you when I bought that domain name.
I know. We were talking about a concept that I was working on, and you said this domain name, just kind of threw it out there because it was something you had. And I said, do you own that? And you said, yeah, I've owned it for years. And I was like, can I have it? And you said, sure. So you're amazing with names and buying domain names that are going to be useful even in years down the road.
Well, my new blog, which is not new, but it has a new name, 23 Hours, that was a concept that I thought about a year ago. I was hanging out with Tom Johnston of the Doobie Brothers, and he told me the concept of, they're not paying me for the hour I'm on stage. People pay me for the 23 hours it takes to get there. So I thought, 23 hours, that's like being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Let me grab this thing. And I did, but I didn't know how I was going to use it. You and I, being on holiday, we're brainstorming, thinking about the new year. Yeah, maybe I should use that 23 hours for the blog, not just the book that I thought it was going to be for.
No, I think it was more like me going,